Hey, what's going on guys, Grace here, welcome back to Marvel's Avengers, and today let's take a look at legendary loot. Yes, it is currently available in the beta. As a matter of fact, I got a ton of it, including on stream with many of you guys that watched my live stream yesterday. But in this video, I kinda wanna share two things. First of all, obviously some of the legendary loot that I got, and second of all, the best methods that you can use in order to make the most out of these beta weekends and get the best rewards possible. So let's jump right into it with all of the details, and as always, a thumbs up on this video would be super appreciated. So here's a few things you need to know about the legendary drops in the beta, and supposedly in the full game as well, or at the very least the equivalent of the early game that we currently have, and that is basically legendaries can drop from almost anything. This includes like enemies that you get to fight, bosses, as well as the end of the missions, and even these random chests that you oftentimes find in certain levels. Of course, in the final game there's going to be other ways to get it, way more than in the beta, but for the beta by far the best one has to be through these elite aim units. Basically these are much more powerful foes, kind of like mini bosses that you find in certain locations, in certain missions, but they also have a ton of survivability, some really powerful skills, and as a result they also provide some of the best rewards. Like if you're at least power level 15 and above, I think they only drop epics, but below that they might drop, for example, like rare blue items, but after that you only get epics, and there's also a very good chance to get legendaries from these. Now the first one you can get is from the mission called to Tame a Titan. This is a very popular mission that a lot of people are farming, though many aren't doing it properly. So here is how you can find the elite aim unit. So basically you're going to reach this area and you have to make your way through the first gate. Unfortunately there's a couple of enemy waves here that you have to clear up before that gate opens up, so do that first. You will then notice that the gate opens up and you will have to pass through this tunnel. Now through this tunnel there's going to be some other enemies, but I suggest you go ahead and just ignore them completely because they aren't going to follow you too much. Once you're on the other side and you've reached into the second area, you're going to want to head over to the right side of it until you see this waypoint right here. It's even going to prompt Jarvis to tell you that the elite aim unit is going to be really close to you. But once you get to it, you're going to see that it can spawn either a dreadbot or one of those humanoid like superpower enemies. You can go ahead, take them down, and it's either going to drop an epic or a legendary. There's a big chance for a legendary to drop. It's not like 50-50, more like 10%, but it's a really decent chance to get quite a ton of legendaries in a very short amount of time. Even more so since we're going to restart the mission, do this all over again, get back into this place, and repeat this process over and over again. All you have to do for that is to press the options button on your controller, bring up the menu, and then press triangle to get back onto your ship and restart the same mission and get back to the same location. You might want to also know that there's also a chest on the opposite side of this area, so there's a gear chest that you can also get to fully maximize your run. This brings us to the second method, which is even faster than this one. So the other one is enter the Avengers. You can find it in the Eastern Seaboard, basically right here. I think it's the only one available in the beta in that region, but it basically employs a similar tactic. So once you spawn in the map, you're going to see that the main objective is right in front of you, but what you're going to want to do is look to your right side where you will see 2 points of interest. One of them, the first one and the closest one, is going to be a gear chest. It's going to be right next to this bridge area that also has a shield on it, so you're going to want to go ahead and take it. By the way, there is a big dreadbot that is actually protecting the place, but unfortunately he isn't an elite unit, so he doesn't really have a high chance to drop any legendaries, but he sometimes can drop something useful like a rare and whatnot. Once you have taken both the enemy as well as that chest, head over on the other side of the river, and here is where you will find the actual elite unit on top of these stairs with other enemies as well. Again, it can spawn about the same enemies as in the previous mission, so go ahead, take them down, and once you've done so, there's quite a decent chance that you might get a legendary as well, or at the very least an epic, which is still very powerful. And once you've done that a handful of times, you can just reset these over and over again and just get as many as possible. There's also a handful handful of other areas with gear chests. This is an overall great level for that. Usually you find them on the side of buildings in these garages that have some really easy puzzles that you need to complete to get them. The final one is going to be the Stark Realities, again in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to be in the jungle region, and I think that this is by far the fastest. This is also the method that got me the most amount of legendaries, so here is what you will want to do. Once you have spawned in the area, simply follow the main objective until you reach this gate right here that is also opened, but it is protected by some enemies. You don't have to take those down, just skip them completely and head over completely to the left side on the road that brings you to this dead end right here, and here is where the next elite unit is going to spawn, and it's basically going to give you a much faster access to an elite unit. It takes no more than like 20 seconds to reach that, even with a slow character, and you can repeat this over and over again. Just pop an ultimate since it's likely going to be available, or at least a couple of skills, take them down fast, and yeah, this is going to be quite a nice method. By the way, if you also want to have some other chests, there is a hidden vault in the jungle on the right side outside of the gate. You have to use that radar on the left corner of the screen. It's kind of annoying, but it does provide at least one very useful chest, and oftentimes I even found out two that would give me an epic. Now this brings me to the final point, how to increase the actual power level of the items much faster, because the max power level is 45 and it kind of takes a while to gear up everybody to 45, but there is a very good way that it's very likely going to work in the full game as well, and that is by increasing the difficulty of each of the missions that you're doing. So to do that, go and select your mission. Once you're on it, press square on your controller, and this is going to bring you the difficulty selection. If you choose the highest difficulty, this is going to put all of the things in that mission about 11 levels on top of your current level, which means that you're going to be able to easily skip and get much higher power level items than you would otherwise on lower difficulties. Do keep in mind though that the enemies are also going to scale up, they're going to be much higher level, they are also going to deal way more damage as a result, but if you have geared yourself up with the previous methods, this should be a piece of cake, as even the highest difficulty isn't going to be that difficult. Now let's talk about some of those items I was talking about. Of course, I did get a bunch of legendaries. I think that one of them I even got it on stream yesterday when we were playing. It was basically this one, the Nimble Pulse Vest. It was quite low level, I upgraded it a little bit, but it does seem that legendaries usually provide much better perks than other types of gear. So not only will you see that the stats are much higher on the perks on the legendary gear compared to the lower levels, but you also get some more interesting ones. Like for example, this one had a 26.4% chance when critically injured to grant a heroic charge burst for all heroics. So basically this meant that I could go in, use my heroic abilities and take enemies when otherwise I couldn't if I didn't have this perk, and it's a pretty substantial one. I mean, even for a power level 19, that's almost 30% chance, so quite a big one. I also saw ones that would provide a ton of survivability, like for example, they would have a similarly decent chance to provide a ton of defenses if you were otherwise knocked down, so it would kinda act like a cheat death and keep you alive in these situations. There's also the second one right there that gives the pin particle infusion. Now this isn't rare or anything, you can find it on green gear as well. I just found it on the legendary to be much more effective and efficient than on lower tiers of gear. Maybe the chance to activate it and to shrink the enemies is much higher, but otherwise I did notice that it's much better. Honestly, it's just much better than the other ones on the other gear. The final perk that I wasn't able to unlock would have been absolutely devastating, since it has an almost 30% chance when defeating enemies with weak points attack to basically give me a heroic charge burst for all of the heroics, which means that I can constantly use abilities all the time, and these are the most powerful in the game, especially for Kamala that has some absolutely amazing powers over there. But unfortunately the power level is only 45. If it was higher I would have been able to update it again, but yeah, it is what it is. Here's another one that I got very good at defenses, especially for the second perk. In this footage it's not upgraded, but I did upgrade this later, like completely. So basically 41.2% chance when critically injured to grant a defense buff. I kind of need to find more of these. I think that this for Hulk would be amazing, but it would be amazing for anybody. There's also like the chance to perfect evade grants a short defense buff. This is an all-around amazing defense item. And the final one, 50% 30% reduction in heroic energy drained by spin attacks and 25% less damage. So again, some of these can be super powerful, some of them might not be that great. I think there's going to be quite a bit of RNG on gear, even on legendary gear, so even if you get a legendary item, it doesn't always mean it's going to be the best if the perks on them don't fit your current playstyle. So again, I hope that we can replace these, maybe some of the perks can be reforged and whatnot. I'm not really sure because there wasn't any discussion on that, but by the looks of it, there is a bit of RNG involved, though not as much since most of the perks do provide some meaningful buffs. Nonetheless, this is it for now with everything you need to know. As always, let me know down below how many legendaries you've got, and in the meantime, also don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.